I'm curious about, how you've ended up here with your path for SugarCRM. There was a number of ways you could have gone. And I think you were probably in the room when you were making all the decisions as to whether to go left or right.
Yeah.
Do you remember a few of the decisions that you made early on that you think back and say, you know what, it would have been very different if we hadn't gone left instead of right?
So Sugar is like a lot of tech companies in that we were 3 product guys when we started the company. Our entire focus is around the product, building the right product. And so, and I think that's how every company, frankly, gets its start is a vision amongst a group of founders who look at how to solve an existing problem differently. And that, for us, we just caught the tiger by the tail. Right time, right place, open source, cloud, subscription, all this was coming together in 2004. We were doing freemium. We were doing product-led growth before they ever called it product-led growth. We were doing freemium before they even called it freemium, right? The whole idea of open source and being able to try before you buy and download the software and install it yourself. These are all the things that we're doing to drive growth. And that exploded us out of the gates.
And did you feel it? Did you feel it kind of going that way? Like it felt like an explosion, or did you feel at the time like this isn't working?
Oh, no. This is working faster than we can keep up.
Okay.
Right? That was frankly a bit of our challenge, especially when you got 3 guys who none of us had ever had any executive position in a company before. We had barely managed people, let alone whole company.
So how did you think about that? You're all of a sudden you've got a tiger by the tail. What do you start to think about?
Biggest lesson learned there is stay lean, don't go Byzantine.
Okay.
When you're building out a company, you'll have people who say, but what about this one corner case? We need to figure out how to automate this business, this corner case. We need to figure out how to streamline this corner case. And I think your job as a founder, as a business leader, is to say, you know what, we're not going to worry about that. We're going to focus on the 20% of the things that need to get done that drive 80% of the revenue. And we're just going to streamline that 20%. And these other things that pop up that aren't really driving revenue and aren't really driving customer satisfaction, we're not going to try and solve those. And I'm a systems person. I like to solve all those problems. I made the mistake of creating some fairly Byzantine business processes inside of our company in the early days where people would come in and go, what the heck is that? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that process? So again, stay lean, don't go Byzantine, I think is one of the things to certainly recommend to any first-time founder who's figuring out how to grow their business. And frankly, I'd argue that this is it's a business truism that applies to everybody. Focus on what's driving revenue, focus on what's driving customer satisfaction, automate there, drive there. We built out freemium before it was even called freemium.
And how did you think, how did that come about? How did you think that was an idea?
The very nature of open source. The 3 of us had been working together at a previous company. I called it out earlier, called Epiphany. And we had just gone through a cycle of building a new product. And we were leveraging a ton of open source technology through that whole process. And we were looking at it, thinking to ourselves, what if we took an open source CRM application in its fullness out to market, as opposed to the piece parts underlying technology? And what if we disrupted the market that way? Because the thing that we were seeing was just a ton of eyeballs on SourceForge.net, the distribution side of this software. And so what we did is right out of the gates, we went out and we dominated the CRM category on SourceForge. We dominated the business applications category on SourceForge. And
you had Salesforce blowing up on the paid front. At that, I remember those days very specifically. And we actually got Salesforce in 2003, 4, I think. We were one of the early.
We were appealing to the IT department. The IT departments that wanted an open source approach to their technology stack, we became their go-to.
And that was the story. It wasn't just a cost thing. It was more an approach.
Yeah. Well, cost was part of it, certainly, but we charge for the commercial version of the software. We charge for support. We charge for extra features. And when we worked with the IT departments, we were working with them around our commercial version. So definitely, they're paying for the software and they were paying for our time and energy. But what we did best is we connected with the IT departments. And that drove growth in a fantastic way. However, there was a meme in the marketplace that IT was becoming less relevant, and that the business owners, especially in the world of cloud software, line of business owners, the head of sales, head of marketing, et cetera, were making their own IT decisions. And that was absolutely happening, very much becoming the case. And so what we ended up deciding to do was we actually turned off our open source version, and we stopped focusing on the IT department. And we focused specifically on the lines of business. And frankly, I look back on that and I think that was dual-edged sword. It worked in some ways, it didn't work in others. Because we kind of lost our ability to speak to the IT department as effectively as we had in the past. And we undercut a whole world of lead flow that had been working for us. Now, we got really good at talking to the business owners, the line of business owners, and we drove growth that way. But we walked away from freemium and we walked away from the IT department. And then we ended up coming back several years later and reinvigorating our whole approach to the IT department. And so in there, as you're making these big strategic decisions, and most notably, you're changing the way lead flow comes into the company, be very thoughtful about how you approach that. It's a pretty dramatic change inside of a company.
Well, so sales and leads are near and dear to my heart, and objection handling is one of my favorite topics. I'm curious.
Jack does a great job at that.
I'm curious about this idea of selling to line of business or IT. I mean, what is your experience with regard to, and I know everybody's different, but on the whole, are they talking to one another? Do they get along as well as, is that still kind of a cats and dogs type relationship? I mean, can you sell to both? Should you be selling to both? Do you have to sell to both in order to get the deals done? I mean, how do you look at it?
Yeah. So here's my observation. 10 years ago, the CIO held all the keys to the kingdom, including the budget. Fast forward to today, the CIO doesn't have all the keys to the kingdom. The CIO is not in charge of making all the decisions around IT spend, most notably inside of the marketing department. Marketing departments typically are driving almost as much of an IT budget spend as the IT department themselves are. So the power is certainly distributed, has shifted. And what you find in there is the IT departments have been forced to reinvent themselves to become business partners with the line of business, because a line of business at any point in time says you made an application choice that I disagree with. I'm going to go buy my own, and I'm going to create my own shadow IT organization. and that has happened over and over and over again. And what I've seen is a complete change in the attitude of IT from being, I'm king of the hill, you have to do what I tell you to do, and if you don't pound, then you just can go pound sand, to, hey, I'm a business partner, and I want to reserve the right to veto a bad technology choice, but in the end, I'm going to support the business, the IT choice that best supports the business. And if you're going to lead that selection process, and my job is just to sit at the table, I'm fine with that. I'll go focus on infrastructure that you don't care about. And that attitude shift is absolutely there and prevalent every single day.
How do you overcome that kind of resistance, or do you only hear about it later on after the deals?
I hate selling to the enterprise. Maybe being a little dramatic there. You get all these politics with large enterprise companies. You don't get this politics in mid-market companies. In mid-market companies, I find decision-making and alignment happens much more quickly inside of a company that's doing $50 million to $1 billion in revenue. You don't see these politics in the same way that you see in large enterprises. And companies with 50 million to 50 million to $1 billion in revenue, they've got money to spend on significant IT investments, but they don't have the baggage that you get with these larger companies. And so I really like working with mid-market companies because they're big enough to matter, they're small enough to care. They've got the right mix of of attitude and resources.
So another thing that I think we've seen at Solutions Review over the past 12 years is this idea of lots of point solutions. Everybody's got something, right? And it's been, compelling sales pitches after compelling sales pitches. We need that thing, and to the point where sometimes they buy things that are redundant and don't necessarily get along. Are you seeing people, and I'm sure you guys are thinking about this more of a platform approach. Are you seeing people getting to a point where they're like, you know what, man, we gotta strip some of this stuff out. We gotta clean the closet and get down to something that works.
What's better for me? 2 vendors that give me 80% of what I need, or 20 vendors that give me 120% of what?
But 20 solutions that are working and people are using, and the internal resistance of stripping that away and without knowing whether or not, I mean, again, that's an objection. That's a mental objection that I'm sure you.
What I find in mid-market companies is that they're looking for consolidation. They're looking for keeping their IT stack manageable and effective. Now, good IT leaders are always open to new ideas coming in. They can't be the office of no. They can't be the office of business prevention. If IT is the office of business prevention, guess what? There's going to be a new CIO pretty quickly thereafter. But generally speaking, they're trying to consolidate down and have because security is the bugaboo in here, right? You can have those 20 different providers, but if you got a security footprint that's all over the map and you get hacked, not good at all. So this is where IT departments are trying to drive business leaders to make fewer decisions, make sure they match the security posture that the company is trying to adopt and put into place. So I think that's what I'm seeing is inside of mid-market, security is driving companies to fewer solutions that are more scalable and more predictable and more manageable, as opposed to just a wild west attitude. But at the same time, if they're not open to new ideas, they're going to get left behind, and there's going to be a new CIO.
I'm curious about like an old guard versus a new guard. So one of my theories is that the singular resistance to the cloud was age. The people in charge just couldn't wrap their head around the idea of not
fear of change. And the older you get, the more fearful of change you are.
Having a cold room with lots of servers, and once the new guard started to move in, it became very easy for organizations to fully move to the cloud, or at least where they could. I'm curious if you're still seeing that, and whether you have that, whether that is an indication, perhaps. I don't know if maybe that's a leading indication in a CRM system is, is the age of the new line of business head or the age of the new CIO. If they're of a certain age, then they've only had cloud solutions, and let's go get them.
I think it's generational. I think boomer IT people made decisions differently than Gen X, than millennial, than Gen Z is going to be doing. People doing evaluations these days of software tend to be director level people who are mostly millennials.
And so you're seeing a kind of a younger, more empowered.
They just have a different mindset. Me run the software myself? No, I don't do that. I use cloud services, and I'll hold you to a stringent set of security and protocols. Are you SOC 2? Are you ISO 27001? Walk me through your data privacy agreement. Walk me through those things. But I think it's the age is more in generations, and it's very much impacts how people make decisions. That the point I did want to make in here is probably the single biggest change that I'm seeing today, because you talked about how there's 20 different apps, instead of 2 apps. Are you the company that goes with 20 apps, or the company that goes with 2 apps? Are you the company that embraces lots of different technology quickly or not? What I'm finding today is that long tail of technology providers is becoming more and more industry specific. So what you're finding in there, and what we have found inside of our own customer base, is great. You've got general purpose horizontal CRM tech. That's great, and you're successful in that. Convince me that you understand my business. If I'm gonna spend time doing business with you, convince me that you understand the credit union industry, the manufacturing industry, the wholesale industry, not just the manufacturing industry as a whole, but talk to me specifically about your experience with industrials versus building materials versus automotive.
This is great. This is great objection handling right there.
And in there, historically, we would always, software companies would just kind of put this thin veneer of
here's a case study.
Here's a case study. Here, I did a Google search on some of the keywords that are specific to you.
We got a couple of references.
Yeah. And that's not flying anymore, because what's happening is if you're a well-established horizontal CRM vendor like us, and we're a very safe choice, but along comes a small guy who's expressing experience, may not have it, but expressing experience in a particular industry extremely well. The speed of technology innovation today is allowing those small companies to be really competitive very quickly. And so what's happening is it's driving a shift in the buying process, that I now need to invest heavily in that industry expertise to be very genuine about the industries that we know really, really well, to the point where we just did a very notable acquisition for companies in the manufacturing and distribution space. I can say unequivocally, I know this space pretty much better than anybody else, right? And I've been able to achieve that through both internal investments, through hiring, and through acquisitions. And I'm seeing that play out more and more and more, because it's a crowded market. There's lots of different competitors out there, and the way they're differentiating themselves today is around industry expertise.
Well, I have lots more questions, but I'm going to save them for the next time we get a chance to chat.
Let's do that. This is fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Clint, we're tracking Sugar here at Solutions Review. This has been great. Best of luck with the new acquisition. Best of luck with all that's happening in AI. We didn't even get into all the things that you're going to be doing with AI, and I know you've got a ton of stuff.
That voice interface of the future, that new user interface, it's coming, and we're at the bleeding edge of making it happen.
Well, and we didn't even get into the advice that we can offer the next generation, which I'd love to get into as well, because the next 30 years, I have 2 kids that just got into the workforce, and I genuinely worry about the next 30 years for them. It's going to be wild.
Well, hybrid will live longer than you ever expect. So think about when the cloud came out. Let's call it 2000, maybe 2010, somewhere in that time frame. And look at how much technology is still on-premise based today. So there's going to be a shift. We're in the middle of a shift, but it doesn't change like a light switch, right? It's more like a dimmer switch, right? And I think hybrid's going to live for quite a while, and there's going to be a lot of room for a lot of expertise to happen in there across the way. Again, I'm very utopian in nature.